What are Mystical ZI Bai's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. One of the best things about ZI Bai is that she is going to be a very budget-friendly character, especially in terms of teammates. She has plenty of 4-star teammate options at her disposal, and while she does have great premium options available to her, you don't need them in order to make her work. Not only is this a nice break, considering that most recent 5-star DPS releases have preferred having a specific 5-star on their team, such as Flynn's liking Inefa, Nafer wanting Lauma, Skirk wanting Escoffier, you get the point. ZI Bai isn't really like this. Of course, she likes having her premium teammates, and she does like having Colombina, but she far from requires them, and her budget teammate options are also actually good for her. If you don't have Colombina, you can use Ino, and for her other two teammates, you're able to use Goro and Eluga. Now, I will say you cannot expect to have a C6 Eluga after pulling for one copy of ZI Bai, maybe if you pull for multiple copies, but I would say it's more realistic to assume you would end up with a C2 Eluga. However, even a lower investment Eluga is still going to be a very good teammate for ZI Bai, and she is still honestly going to be a really strong DPS even if you're using 4-star teammates with her, and that includes not having max constellations on said 4-stars. So this ends up resulting in a character that is extremely budget-friendly. Another thing that I feel is worth mentioning is that it's actually more worth going for C6 Eluga as opposed to Colombina for your ZI Bai, and this is assuming that you run into an extra ZI Bai copy along the way, because getting a C6 4-star that is brand new on their release banner is very unlikely if you're only going for C0 of the 5-star on the banner. But if you're willing to get extra copies of her and you didn't pull for Colombina, then I would say that's something good to know. This is all on top of the fact that she's not even going to be that reliant on having a good weapon. You can use Harbinger of Dawn on her and she is still going to perform very well. Granted, that weapon isn't exactly the most consistent, but the point stands that you're able to use some extremely cheap gear on ZI Bai and still get excellent performance out of her. And that leads me on to my next point. She is actually going to end up being the new best Geo DPS in the game. Navia is definitely still a good character, but she is not an excellent character anymore, and I would say that if you're looking for an upgrade to your Navia, you are definitely going to find that with ZI Bai. Now don't worry, Navia is not a bad character by any means, and she is still a very, very strong unit, so if you want to keep using her and you're not really looking to replace her, you don't have to. However, if you're interested in an upgrade, then yes, ZI Bai is an upgrade in spades, not to mention that she is an upgrade even if you use her budget-friendly team options. And using ZI Bai's premium team, well, that is obviously a big upgrade. Navia was the best Geo DPS for quite a long time now, but her time is coming to an end and ZI Bai is taking over that now. So if that's something that you're interested in, especially because Geo DPSs are few and far in between, and I know that people that like this element are very passionate about it, well then yes, ZI Bai is going to become your new best bet. And another thing that I should mention is that she is going to be a fantastic DPS at all levels of investment. Her budget teams and budget gear is strong enough for her to feel like a really powerful unit even when you're using such cheap gear on her, but her premium investment is a big enough increase to feel like said investment was worth your time, and you also get a really strong DPS as a result. No matter what level of investment your ZI Bai is going to be at, you're really going to feel her influence on your account, and you're really gonna feel the freaking damage she deals. So she is a very good character regardless of what point you're at in the game and where you're currently at in your Genshin account. Like I said, Geo DPSs tend to be quite rare, so even if you're a veteran player that has a ton of different characters, it's unlikely that you have a use for your Goro, and that you have Geo perfectly covered if you've only been pulling for more recent characters. Now, if you have Navia, once again, you are fine and you don't need to get ZI Bai, but I will say, if you don't have any Geo DPSs at the minute, then ZI Bai is a perfect entry point into getting one that is going to be perfectly strong without having to commit much. So even if you've been playing this game for a very long time, I still think ZI Bai is a character worth considering for you. And another thing is that if you're a beginner player, which actually leads me on to my next point, she is actually going to be a really good pickup for you. Ino is a permanently free character, and Eluga is going to be on ZI Bai's banner. So with that in mind, you're already going to have a complete team with a DPS that is able to use an extremely cheap 3-star sword and get by just fine, of a unique element that isn't really that easily countered. It is the package deal, and if you're only starting Genshin Impact and you're looking for a DPS to get into the game with, ZI Bai is actually a really good choice for you. She's definitely going to serve you in the long run, and all around, she is a really nice pickup if you're just starting out. She is genuinely the complete package, and this character is honestly quite broken. Another thing that I'd like to bring up is that she is going to be the Lunar Crystalise DPS, and this is a pro for anybody that pulled for Colombina. That character is pure, cold, hard Lunar investment, and I would say the best way to make use out of your Columbina is having some more Lunar characters. Now, I would say there are two main reasons you would get Columbina. Reason number one is that you want the best in slot, best possible team for your favorite Lunar DPS team, or you have two Lunar DPS teams, and you want to be able to have a Hydra applicant for both of them, in which case, Ino and Columbina are able to sort that out for you perfectly. And because ZI Bai is so good with budget teammates, you're able to easily give your Columbina to the other team, and the Horse Lady is still going to feel very strong. And all around, if you're interested in investing into Lunar Crystalise, well then now's your chance in order to get the best possible Lunar Crystalise DPS that we are probably going to get for at least a very long time. And another thing is that because Columbina is such a specific character, and she is so specifically tied to the Nordcry meta, investing more into the Nordcry meta is just going to help you get the most out of your Columbina, and thus get the most out of your Lunar reactions. So all around, if you recently pulled for her, and you don't really have any teammates for her, or you're not really sure how you can utilize her in the long run, then getting ZI Bai is a perfectly fine and viable way in order to make the most out of that pull. Because while Columbina is indeed a very strong character, she is very specific, and in order to utilize her, you do ideally want some Notcry characters. Now, I will say you can very much clear without having Notcry characters if you just take advantage of reactions. 4-star Columbina clears are very much a thing right now. I more so mean if you want to take the most advantage out of that pull, then getting ZI Bai if you don't have any other Lunar DPSs is a great investment, and even if you do have other Lunar DPSs, because the Lunar DPS roster right now is just so freaking good, there is no harm in getting ZI Bai and just continuing to invest into the archetype. It is really good at the minute. And considering how low cost it is to get into using ZI Bai, she ends up being a really great deal all around. And I really do want to emphasize how nice it is that she doesn't require some other premium teammate in order to feel really strong. I will say that in Flinz's case, it was definitely overblown and that character is honestly perfectly good without a Neffa, but with Skirk and Nafer, yeah, those two really do want their premium teammates, otherwise they are just significantly worse. The Horse Lady just kind of doesn't really find herself in such a situation, so all around this unit really is the perfect package deal. If you're just getting into Genshin, amazing unit. If you've been playing for a long time, amazing unit. Quite literally does not matter, she is just fantastic all around, and her high Primogen based investment is also looking to be very promising. Now, in terms of her basically only real outlying flaw, I would say it's the fact that she doesn't really have any excellent sustain options. The only one that she can realistically use is Zhongli, and otherwise, yeah, she doesn't really have much in that department. And the main reason that that could be relevant is if you are using Harbinger of Dawn, well, you want to be above 90% HP whenever you use that weapon, so you're gonna have to up your dodging game, because she's not really going to be that comfortable to play in terms of sustain. I do want to mention that she is a Crystalise character, so you are still going to be getting shields, but her sustain is still not exactly perfect, and I do still feel like that's worth highlighting, but it should be mentioned that this isn't a complete deal breaker. She is still all around a really good unit, and it's quite crazy to me that she doesn't really have that many flaws. She genuinely is just a really sound, solid DPS character. I will say it's nice to see Hoyo keeping up the trend of Geo DPSs being well designed, even if Navia did come out, like, quite a long time ago. It has been ages since we got Navia, but at the very least, the next Geo DPS we got was also another really cool one. Lunar Crystalise also just looks like a pretty cool way to utilize Geo. It's a different way to utilize Geo. And in a sense, it's like Geo actually has a proper reaction now. I mean, it is still Crystalise at the end of the day, but it's still interesting to see. She's certainly going to be a top-tier DPS, though I should mention that basically all of the Notcry DPSs we've gotten up until this point have been extremely strong, so you don't really have to get her if you already feel like you're pretty comfortable with where you're at in terms of your Lunar teams, or just in terms of your Notcry DPS teams in general. With that in mind, I will say she can definitely diversify your account quite nicely because she is Geo and because the element isn't as easily countered. So no matter what, there is still going to be value in picking up this character. All around, they did make a full complete package here. I myself would happily pull for her because I love the Adepti and I think her design is absolutely gorgeous, but unfortunately they positioned her right before Varka, who is my currently most anticipated Notcry character. So I'm gonna be waiting for him instead and unfortunately skipping her, but I do really like her and I do think that her kit is really, really cool. Extremely free-to-play friendly DPS, and I'm glad to see that because I was a little concerned of characters like Nafer and Skirk, though it's good to see that we're still getting DPSs out of good budget-friendly teams. She honestly has a long list of reasons to invest into her, and even if you can't really find any logical reason as to why you would need her on your account, she's still likely going to be able to provide value to you in some way, shape, or form. But if you genuinely feel like you have everything on your account covered, you have a Navia, or maybe you don't have any Geo characters and you're pretty much satisfied with that, then you can definitely skip her. But getting her literally cannot be a bad investment. You just can't go wrong. You will have teammates and you will have gear that you can use. All around an excellent unit. Hopefully this video was able to tell you ZI Bai's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out. And you could say she really isn't horsing around of her damage. Hilarious, I know.